In this video today, we're going to be looking into and exploring a typical lead generation system for modern day use to help you with personalized outreach to maximize your efficiency. I'll give you a brief demo on how this works, and then we'll look into the step-by-step process of how you can create this yourself. But first, let's talk about how this actually works. So the system automatically finds and gathers these potential leads. It then analyzes each company to understand who they are and what they do. Using that information then, it writes a unique, relevant article that can directly relate to that consumer, so you can send out personalized outreach messages that come across like less of cold emails and more like personal one-to-one messages. So if you're a business that's in sales, a marketing agency, or anything that requires outreach, then this tool could really be useful for you. Because realistically, anyone with personalized content can stand out and gain trust much quicker. But before we get into things, my name's Sam. I own an AI automation business where I help companies streamline their workflow, unlock hidden costs, and stop the repetitive tasks to let humans focus on what really matters in the business. So if you do think something like this would be fit for your company, then all my details are in the description below. Book a call and we can get in touch. So let's jump in then on how this actually works. So we're going to be using make.com here. You can use NA10, but I'm just using make.com for this instance. You're also going to want to use Apollo and Apify. So I'll briefly run you through what we're doing here. If you log into Apollo is just a big database with people's personal information on it, things like your emails, your phone numbers, and this is really useful for people, especially for outreach, because you're able to get instant data basically at your fingertips. So if you go to the left here onto the prospects tab, you can click on find people, and you're going to get a menu here on the left where you can look at all the different filters that you want to apply. I've gone for things like founder, partner, CEO, and then location, kept it into the UK, and then my industry, civil engineering. As you can see though, there is a range of different filters that you can apply, so you can either keep things broad or really go concise and find out a certain niche of people that you want to see. Once you've applied these filters, all the names will pop up on the right hand side as you can see here, all with emails, mobiles, actions, links, and the location, job, company size, the list goes on. What you want to do from here is copy the URL, take that over to Apify where we want to run an Apollo scraper here, and you can copy this, just go onto the console, type this in, and you'll be able to use it. It's really efficient, so if we go to the actor, you can see there that it's $1.20 per 1,000 leads. So this is a really effective tool. So we're going to go on to my previous runs. I've just set the results to 1 here, and I've just done that for efficiency, just so we can get through this quickly, and I can show you it. But in reality, you can do 100, 1,000, you can use all the tokens if you want to. But just for the sake of this, I've gone for 1. And you can see here that after copying the URL into the Apollo scraper, so we go to input, we've got search URL here, and you're going to want to copy and paste that we've just used from Apollo. And your total number of records required, I've just gone for 1, which is why we only get 1 output here. So if I go over to here then, we can see output is this. In the United Kingdom, contractors' designs, the email status is verified. You've got all this sort of information that you've got here, number of employees. Here you can see his job title, the industry that he works in, his LinkedIn URL, and a range of other information as well. So we go over to make.com now. I'm just going to run this in the background and I'll speak over it. So it's getting the Apify command that we've done there, getting the data set. It's then making a HTTP request, passing the HTML into text. And then we've got 2 OpenAI modules there where we're going to take that data and really leverage AI here to create that personalized message. And as you can see here, producing a Google document. So if I go over to my Google Docs now, just to show you what it's outputted. So 357, that's now. And you can see here, it's outputted a Google Doc that's completely personalized, and it's got some other information there at the bottom that's personal to him. Obviously, you can alter these prompts so it can suit you a bit better, but this is just for a purpose of showing you. It's a really effective tool. It takes low tokens to run, and it's very quick, like you've just seen. So let's take a look at what we've actually done here then. So we'll start on the left. We have an Apify function here, and you want to get the dataset items. So typically what you'll use most with Apify is run actor or get dataset items. And in this case, I'll just use get dataset because I've got the URL already and I can use the dataset ID from Apify because I don't always want to be constantly running it and running down my tokens for Apify. So getting dataset items is fine for this. If you want to do a bit more of a dynamic approach where you want to change the job titles or locations, specific things like that, then it's probably worth running an actor so you can do it all in this make.com interface. If we click on get datasets then, you can see here that it's connected to my Apify and the dataset ID has been imported there. So I'll just show you how you can get that now. Go over to Apify. And once you've run the scraper, go over to storage and you will see here the information about the run you've just done. Here you'll find the dataset ID, which is unique to this, and you can just copy that to clipboard and then paste it in here to get the dataset ID. So that's storing all the information there, and once you've connected your account, it can look at the previous runs that you've done and it can extract the data straight away. We want to get it in JSON format because this will help us later on in the workflow, and I've just set my limit to 100 there. Now, making a request. So we want to use a HTTP request here to get information from that company's URL from what we've just scraped on Apify. And like I said, you can do this with multiple companies. I'm just doing it with one for the sake of this video, but you can really see the power of this when you start using 100, 200, 1,000 companies, and you can generate 1,000 reports one by one without even having to put pen to paper or having to type anything yourself. This is really useful. So method, we're using a get request, and if we go over to the URL here, you want to run this Apify function on its module only, just so you can output some of the data here. A quick tip, you can type in at the top of the URL, you can type in at the top of the search bar here, website, website URL, and that's going to give the website URL, which you can just put in here for the HTTP request. So that means after it's done a run on the Apify side, we're going to get that website URL, we're going to extract it, and we're going to get it into JSON form. So you want to keep this content type as JSON, and make sure you're passing a response here as well, just so we don't need to add any tools to parse the data later. Then we want to do a text parser. So the website is in a HTML format, and we want to get that in a text format, just so that when we pass it over to the OpenAI module, it can read it in a text string and instead of HTML code. So go to HTML and you can just see there, run the previous block, and you'll have your data there, which as you can see is all in HTML form. Now this is where we actually use the AI agent. This is where we're using the AI to really tailor that answer to us and make it personalized for our outreach. You're going to want to use two modules here, and I did actually use ChatGPT here to help me to craft the response that I want to give to the OpenAI module, but it does take a bit of back and forth, but I'll keep all the information up on the screen here, so if you just want to copy and paste this, you can. So we want to create a completion. I'm using GPT-4o, but you could probably use GPT-4o mini for this. It will likely be a lot quicker. I'm using GPT-4o for this. I've had no issues using this. You can use obviously 4o mini where it'll be a bit quicker, but for the sake of just using one website for this, I'm going to use GPT-4o. Now we want to look at what we're telling the GPT to do. And if we look at here, you can see that we're breaking the prompts down into different roles. And I just want to touch on this here as well. When we look at different roles, it's really good that you have to understand this, because the quality that you give the OpenAI module will essentially equal the quality that it outputs. If you give it a poor prompt where it could be quite confusing, then you're probably going to get a poor output. If you specify certain things that you want, for example, make this answer concise, leave all the writing in bold, then it's definitely going to do that. So just to touch on this then, when you go into the role, there'll be a range of drop downs, and the system role is used to provide, say, overall instructions and context to that AI model. So shaping its behavior and personality sort of. So for example, you'll see in this, we say, you are a perfect data extractor. You sort of got to play with its ego a bit to help it. Then you've got the user role, which represents the input provided by the human user, and so you can ask questions or prompts, for example. And then also the assistant role, which represents the AI's response to the user's input, so based on the system instructions and user input. That's where you could possibly give it an example or some questions. So then let's have a look at what we've used here. So the first role, we've done developer and system, and like I said, this is where you're telling the AI module what you want it to do, what you want it to be, more likely. So you are a helpful data extractor assistant. That's all I've put. You can put more, obviously. You can add context, add adjectives, do whatever you want. But for the sake of this, I've used that and it's worked out quite well. And now then for the message too. Now we're going to look at the user role here now as well. So this is where you want to put the prompts. This is where you're going to tailor the answer that's coming back to you. So remember, we're on the data extraction set from the website URL at the minute. So I've said, your task is to take as input information about a person's website and their LinkedIn profiles and then convert this into the following JSON object. And the reason we've put it in this format is because we want a structured output for this automation now. We don't want to have loads of information that's piled on top of each other, which makes it really hard to extract. It's also a standardized format, and we want that specific info on the extraction. So for example, we've used website context, person context, and any unique angles which may find it easier to personalize the email that we send to them. So we also want to give this a bit more information now. You'll receive all of the data you need in an unstructured string. Your task is to pass that out and turn that into an above object. And we've also given it some rules. So like I said, this is when you add notes to the bottom of a prompt, you might say, keep your answer in bold, or make sure you don't include X, Y, or Z. This is essentially what we're doing here. We're giving it the rules that it has to follow to do this effectively. So for number 1, go deep into detail for website context. Write at least 2 paragraphs. Number 2, for the person context, which is what we used above, use all of that data available. Number 3, for unique angles, use the website data and the information about the provided person to create 3 interesting points that we could write about in an article. So this is where we're calling that all of that unique information, so it's not just a general blog that we're sending out, it's really personalized. So if you are using this for an email, for example, you want the user to look at it and think, oh, this looks like it's directly to me. It's not a cold email. It looks like someone's talking to me directly rather than saying new opportunity or buy this, for example. As the last bit here, we said return any new lines as \n. And all it's essentially doing is, it means don't use the actual line breaks in the text and instead output them as an escaped version. And then finally, the role. So the role is the user on this, like we have above, and we want to essentially give it the information that it needs so it can be dynamic from the previous automation. So the website to scrape is a result of the text pass that we've done here, where we've got HTML to text. And if we can see on this output here, just to show you what we're doing, we can go on to text, add the plus button, and this is literally taking, instead of HTML, it's just text of all of that data and information that's on the website. Head back over to this, and then we want to include the personal information as well. And all that personal information is coming from the Apify and the Apollo scrape that we did earlier. So I've added city, name, email, state, organization name, organization website, and the number of employees. Obviously, you can change this, you can include more, you can include less. This is just something that's worked for me. Next then, so we've created the GPT to extract the data. Now we want to focus the GPT on providing an article. And I don't recommend doing all of these in one GPT here. One key thing with doing automations is that you really want to make it structured. You really want to make it concise so it can go block by block. It can follow one, then follow the next. The information from one can go to the next one. It's not all jumbled up in one and it's not getting confused of what it's doing. So then, same again, used the GPT 4.0 model. Again, you can use the 4.0 mini if you want. And we have done, for the developer and system, like we did previously, we've now said you're a helpful, intelligent newsletter writing assistant. And now for the user message, your task is to complete a fully customized, polished newsletter specifically for the company and person described below. And this is where we use the previous information from the GPT model for the new. So website context is the website context that we specified, the person context that we specified, and any unique angles that it's discovered. And now we just want to give it a bit more information on how we want it to write this newsletter. So I've put, write the newsletter specifically for this company. So make it about this company. Don't add any extra information. Make it about all of this that we've looked in the automation. Reference the company's services, recent projects or team. Connect the unique angles to the company's industry. Write in and engage in tone, but make sure it feels relevant to the company's audience. And most of all, do not copy generic AI news. Make it directly connected to the company's work. And this all brings back to how we want it to be personalized. We don't want this to be a generic email that it's just going to get in the bin or go in the spam folder. And then we want to format this newsletter to give it a bit more guidance on how we want the structure to be. So return the entire newsletter in Markdown format using this JSON format. And again, use ChatGPT, use the internet, or just try and understand the fundamentals of what we've done here. But we've just broke it up into title, subheadings, and newsletter body. We carry on down then, we've used the Markdown to HTML, where we can get the result from the previous and then handing over to a Google Docs. And I've just said, so the name of this, that's going to be saved as, I've done for name. So whoever we're addressing this to, for say Steve, this is your custom newsletter. You can make it sound better or put something a bit more interesting if you like. And the content of that is the HTML that we've just used there from the Markdown. That's all you need to do. If you want to save it in a specific location, you can. And let's run this to show you how it works. Oh, this module contains unsaved changes. Go over there and save it. And then we'll run it again. So it gets the Apify. It will obviously take a bit longer if you're scraping more leads. Like I said, I've just done one for the sake of this. Obviously, as you're probably aware, the GPT and the OpenAI functions of this automation is going to be what takes the majority of the time. But even then, I'd say it's like a minute, a 2-minute sort of thing. Produce the Google Docs. It's probably importing all the information now, and you can see it's done. No errors, which is surprising for a first try. And you can see here the output. So if we go over to the latest document within here, we can see 4:13 p.m. and there we go. So we've got a tailored newsletter or a tailored blog to Simon Smith with details that are personal to him, details that are personal to his company, and it really gives it a one-to-one feeling, a one-to-one approach. You can obviously take this further, and I might actually do a video on this to see how you can then go from this blog to a personalized email outreach. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed and hopefully you found it quite useful. I did get an inspiration of this from Nick Sariv, who I'll link down below in the description. And if you did find it useful, you think it might be useful for your company, if you want to send personalized outreach emails to increase your sales, then just look in the description below. I've got a link to all my contact details. You can get in touch and we can book a discovery call.